A new German uniform poster is now available on our store over at armchairhistory.tv. Sign up to our membership to receive discounts on merchandise and view exclusive content like our video on Operation Valkyrie as well as our exclusive podcast. Check out the Armchair History TV YouTube channel for the free shortened versions of these episodes. Before the formation of the German Empire in 1871, the uniforms of the region's militaries were as varied as the states they fought for. After the state of Prussia led a triumphant victory over France, they and their vast array of neighbors would be unified into the sprawling German Empire. An empire which, made of a diverse collection of states as it was, now saw the need to join its military under the banner of universal German uniforms. The foundation of the newly christened Imperial soldier was the Waffenrock-style dress of the Prussian infantry. The Imperial uniform consisted of a refined Waffenrock woolen coat, now with colored cuffs and collar, which signified the soldier's arm of service. This was worn with the distinctive Pickelhaube helmet, now in its simplified and more cost-effective M1867 design. The Waffenrock was produced in a number of colors, ranging from light or dark blue to green depending on service. In 1895, it came into its final design, receiving smaller buttons, as well as the addition of a red piped vent on the tunic's skirt, which allowed the wearer access to two rear pockets in the skirt's liner. The Waffenrock would be replaced in 1907 by the Feldgrau, or field gray, uniform. This color was utilized specifically in the field, with traditional dark blue uniforms used on all other occasions. The heavy wool Feldgrau was piped in regiment or service branch colors, with shoulder straps piped in corps or unit facing colors. Two hooks above the Feldgrau's rear skirt, as well as two additional hooks on the hips, were used to properly distribute the weight of the soldier's belt and equipment. By the early 1800s, Germany's missionaries and traders had gained their home country's sizable influence outside the borders of Europe. Coupled with Bismarck's colonial policies of 1884, the German foothold in Africa and the Pacific soon bore fruit in the form of colonies and territories, which themselves required the managing assistance of local auxiliaries and specialized Schutztruppe. Thank you to the sponsor of today's video, War Thunder, the most comprehensive vehicle combat game ever made. Play more than 2,000 tanks, planes, helicopters, and ships in dynamic combined arms PvP battles, all for free on PC, Xbox, and PlayStation. Every vehicle is incredibly detailed and modeled down to their individual components, offering a highly immersive combat experience. Choose from War Thunder's incredible arsenal of vehicles such as the feared Panther tank or the Ju-87 Stuka dive bomber, and watch them perform using the game's stunning graphics and detail in 4K resolution. I was especially impressed by War Thunder's dynamic and detailed damage mechanics, which assign damage to your vehicle's crew and components rather than just using hit points. Play for free using our link in the description and join over 50 million players from all around the world. For a limited time, new and returning players who haven't played in the last 6 months will receive a bonus pack with premium vehicles, premium account time, a free vehicle decorator, and much more. No purchase necessary. Simply use our link to register, download, and play War Thunder today. As the Schutztruppen operated in a climate much different from that of the standard Imperial soldier, they were provided with a unique uniform. The Schutztruppen soldier wore an 1896 Südwesterhut, or southwestern hat. This was made of gray felt, accented by a band in brim in the soldier's colony color, and pinned on the right by an Imperial cockade. In 1894, the soldier's corduroy uniform was given a collar and cuffs in colony colors as well. The soldier of the Expeditionary Corps in China, a corps which built its ranks of only the best of volunteers, also sported a unique uniform. He wore a unique straw hat, the Strohhut, which resembled the Südwesterhut. The hat was somewhat unpopular, however, and was replaced in 1900 first by a khaki Bordmütze field cap, then the Navy's 1895 pattern tropical khaki helmet, the Bordfelt. The events of 1914 saw the German army, now nearly 1.5 million soldiers strong, mobilize across Europe as the bloody First World War came to a head. To meet the needs of such an unprecedented war, uniforms and equipment were produced and distributed en masse, tested, tried, and constantly revised along the way. The changes made to the German soldiers' gear over the course of the First World War tell the story of an army which at every step learned to adapt to a harsh and dynamic battlefield. At the war's onset, the Imperial soldier wore the 1907 Feldgrau and the newly introduced M1908 greatcoat. He carried the Gewehr 98 rifle alongside a bayonet and bayonet knot strapped to his M98 short spade. Throughout 1915, Landwehr were typically the last in line for new equipment, but when their turn came around, they were furnished with an M1915, a pointed steel headpiece mounted to a leather skull cap. This unique helmet was the forerunner of the M1916 helmet, developed in response to the numerous head wounds encountered in trench warfare. By 1918, knowledge gained in battle would bring further refinements to the soldier's headgear, outfitting him with the M1918 steel helmet. This helmet was given cutouts at the ears, allowing for both improved hearing and reduced echoes. At this stage in the war, the M1915-16 pattern uniform had become widespread throughout the ranks. Meanwhile, in Germany's colonies, Schutztruppen wore a pocketless uniform known as the Tuchuniform, light gray for most all soldiers, aside from non-combat officials such as doctors, paymasters, and gunsmiths who wore versions of this uniform in colors unique to their role. After the 1918 armistice, Germany's war-torn soldiers returned to the reward of a deposed Kaiser in exile. The upheaval of this new post-war era led to the Imperial Army's disintegration and its replacement by revolutionary soldiers' councils. German officers responded by creating a force to lay down the law, paramilitary units known as Freikorps. By 1919, many Freikorps members were integrated into the new Reichswehr, bringing with them the skills they had once used in quelling revolutionary fervor. At this time, the Feldrock M1920 became the standard for all German soldiers, and it would hold that distinction until the Nazis came to power. The matching M1920 field cap would also be used until 1935, seeing only minor changes along the way. This hat bore a golden oval emblazoned with the Weimar Republic eagle, though this was eventually replaced by the black-white-red cockade of the Third Reich, as the Nazi Party began adding their own insignias to the German soldiers' dress. As the Nazis transitioned the Reichswehr into the Wehrmacht, their focus turned toward establishing their look, so to speak. Most notably, this period saw the creation of the infamous SS uniform. This consisted of a black, open-collared M1932 Dienstrack jacket, embellished with its characteristic NSDAP armband on the left sleeve, and a black and white twisted cord epaulet worn on the right shoulder. This uniform's belt buckle featured an SS eagle and swastika, as well as the text "Meine Ehre heißt Treue," or "My honor is loyalty." The rigid peaked hat was adorned with the ominous combination of a death's head badge and the SS eagle and swastika. The Wehrmacht soldier of 1936 in many ways resembled his Reichswehr predecessor, with his Feldbluse tunic still bearing the field gray wool of the traditional uniform, with only minor modifications in tow. Looking ahead to the mechanized warfare these soldiers would be involved in, Germany tailored the uniform with a shorter skirt and a more form-fitting design, perfect for a soldier who would spend much of his time on the move. The Feldbluse tunic, kept standard until the end of the Second World War, also featured an internal suspension system which allowed the soldier to hang his equipment belt on a series of exterior hooks connected to two straps inside the lining. This spread out the weight of the equipment without the use of suspenders. The soldier's helmet, the M1935 Stahlhelm, was also improved. Thanks to a new leather suspension and modifications to its construction, this helmet was lighter, safer, and more comfortable for the individual soldier. The dawn of the Second World War was marked by the Wehrmacht's lightning-quick strikes against the surrounding nations, allowing them to plant their boots in new territories day by day. This powerful opening round of the war was won by Germany's characteristic adaptations to new battlefield conditions, now a vital skill as the German war machine sent its soldiers everywhere, from the scorching heat of North Africa to the snowstorms of Russia. With this need to adapt came a number of functional and symbolic changes to the German soldiers' uniform and equipment, making their designs lighter, more streamlined, and even more tailored to the contemporary battlefield. The M1940 uniform was the first update to the standard Wehrmacht soldier's outfit, with the bottle green collar and straps being traded out for Feldgrau. More substantial changes came in 1943, as the M1943 Feldbluse was often stripped of its internal suspension system. As the war progressed, the Wehrmacht's uniforms began to be made of cheaper, lower quality materials. 1944 brought major cost-cutting updates with the M44 pattern uniform, the first serious departure from the typical German uniform since 1936. This uniform was characterized by its shortened skirt, now coming only to the waist, and by its unique color, a drab greenish-brown, known as Feldgrau 44. This uniform was field-tested by the elite Panzerlehr Division before it was generally issued, though at this late stage in the war, it was really only seen on the greenest troops. For assault operation support, Germany employed paratroopers known as Fallschirmjäger, who added to the standard uniform a parachutist jump badge, an M1938 Fallschirmjäger helmet, and jump boots. This soldier initially wore a helmet designed to prevent its falling in his face and obscuring his vision during a jump. However, by the late war, newer Fallschirmjägers had begun wearing Stahlhelms covered by string nets, which allowed for the addition of silhouette-breaking twigs and leaves to the helmet. Further late war changes were made to the Fallschirmjäger's gear, but the most notable of these was his adoption of the unique FG-42 assault rifle. In response to the hot weather of North African combat, the Afrika Korps wore M40 tropical tunics, which differed from standard dress in that the collar and lapels were open and made of a medium-weight cotton twill. This fabric was issued in olive drab, but over the course of service faded to khaki. This tunic could also be worn with a necktie, though soldiers often went without. Following its surrender in the Second World War, the now split Germany could finally begin a cautious remilitarization. For Soviet-aligned East Germany, this meant establishing a military-reminiscent police force known as the Volkspolizei in 1945. And for US-aligned West Germany, their own police force, the Bundesgrenzschutz, came in 1951. These twin pushes toward re-establishing Germany's armed security serve as a valuable point of reference for both post-war politics in a divided Cold War Germany, as well as the continuance of the nation's focus on putting their combat knowledge to work in the designs of their soldiers' kit. The adapting game was played again when Hitler invaded the USSR, and the Germans were met with battle against Marshal Mudd and General Winter. While initially unprepared in the latter months of 1941, the Germans quickly sprang into action, even on the home front, as civilians donated fur coats and winter clothing until the army could furnish their soldiers with the needed cold weather gear. This would come in the form of hooded waterproof parkas, white for the Eastern Front and field gray for mountain units. Weather resistant, though very heavy, this uniform is considered one of the first modern combat suits and is the standard worldwide today. The Waffen-SS, the military branch of the SS, served first as Hitler's personal bodyguard before entering active combat. As they shifted into their new role, their equipment and uniforms followed suit, with aspects such as function and the desire for a look distinct from the Wehrmacht shaping their dress. Their 1942 to 1943 winter uniform especially showed signs of expert design, consisting of a padded parka with a fur-lined hood, and mittens with separate thumbs and trigger fingers. In the last winters of the war, their equipment took a number of hits due to the supply shortages, with the soldiers' leather shoulder braces being replaced by webbing, and their magazines now made of low-quality synthetic materials, all varying in color and finish. In addition to the German SS units, an array of foreign legions joined with the Waffen-SS, sometimes retaining SS insignia, but at other times adding aspects of their home country's uniforms to it. The uniform of the British Free Corps, for example, bore both a Nazi eagle and a Union Jack, while some soldiers of the Free Indian Legion wore headwear like the turban. From the moment the territory of East Germany was secured by the Soviets, they began forming their plan for secretly re-establishing an armed force in the country, hoping to reap the benefits without worrying the Western allies. This was the genesis of the Kasernierte Volkspolizei, otherwise known as the KVP. The uniform of the KVP soldier mixed both the familiar and the new, suited up in war surplus such as the blue M1948 tunic or the green M1954, but with added elements unique to their new branch, notably their M1943 style field caps, marked with the KVP insignia. On the West German side of the aisle was the Bundesgrenzschutz, or BGS. Early on, this unit struggled to gain uniforms in its early days, so like their Eastern counterparts, repurposed uniforms became the standard in the early 1950s. The BGS soldier wore the fur green field blouse of the Wehrmacht's light infantry and armored troops, as well as a likewise repurposed field cap, now with a new cockade. In 1952, this hat was replaced with a dark green old-style peaked cap, now emblazoned with an eagle, an oak leaf wreath, and the federal cockade. From its beginnings, the Bundeswehr also repurposed war uniforms, utilizing both Wehrmacht camo and US M1 helmets. Their olive green uniform, with its black tie, was initially used for privates, but was later expanded to the main field uniform for the force. The Bundeswehr Luftwaffe soldier in particular was set apart by the distinguishing band around his arm and the wing badge on his cap. Continuing tradition, the main service uniform of the Nationale Volksarmee held a strong family resemblance to the Wehrmacht uniform. In addition to his gray tunic, the Volksarmee soldier wore a jacket and trousers, initially in the Flachtarnenmuster camouflage, but eventually updated to a Stricktarn camouflage. For headgear, he wore either a field cap, service cap, or M56 steel helmet. In the winter, this uniform was topped with a quilted padded suit and gray knit gloves, and the soldiers' hat choices narrowed to a fur pile cap or a steel helmet. On November 10, 1989, the Berlin Wall fell, marking the long-awaited reunification of Germany. In the meantime, however, the Cold War had come and gone, and the Bundeswehr's now outdated equipment was in dire need of an upgrade. With the lifting of the arms restrictions, which had previously stymied the German military, the nation was once again free to equip its soldiers for the modern era, shaping them into a force soon to be worthy of the 21st century. The Bundeswehr soldier of the newly reunited Germany wore the standard Flecktarn camo tunic and trousers, and in 1992 received his first piece of new gear in the Gefechtshelm M92 combat helmet. He carried the Gewehr 3, or G3 rifle, which held the position of the Bundeswehr's main service rifle from 1959 to 1996. Additional overhauls came in 1997, furnishing the soldier with Bristol body armor and a Heckler & Koch G36. The Kommando Spezialkräfte Operators, or KSK, was established in response to Germany's inability to help evacuate their citizens to safety during the 1994 Rwandan genocide. Throughout the late 1990s, the KSK engaged in anti-terror operations across Europe and beyond. Soldiers of this unit carried the exclusive HK G8 machine gun, as well as the HK MP5K submachine gun. Their uniforms mirrored those of the contemporary Bundeswehr, with the main identification points of a KSK soldier being his unique equipment. At the turn of the millennium, the Bundeswehr uniform would go through further changes. In 2005, its camouflage became noticeably muted, and it would also be upgraded with a Splue flak vest, intended to protect the soldier from shrapnel and low-velocity projectiles. Upon deployment to Afghanistan, the soldier would wear tropical Troppentarn camouflage. Wherever he fought, he typically carried the HK-G36 or the modern HK-G36A2. In 2021, the Mailer Mobast vest was adopted as the standard replacement over the long-running Mailer ST armored vest. At the same time, the Baltskin Viper helmet was adopted, at first as merely interim headgear, but following the breakout of the war in Ukraine, this helmet became standard as well. Replacing the HK-G36 type rifles was the HK-416A7 assault rifle, also known as the G95K. With its long history of modernization and adaptation in both combat and peace, it comes as no surprise to see the German military of today continuing to mold its equipment to the shape of the modern era. With each stitching, each helmet and rifle, we see that innovation continues to shape the narrative of the German soldier, and will continue to do so for decades to come. Thank you again to War Thunder for sponsoring this video. Support our channel and use the link in the description below to download the game, get your exclusive bonus, and play War Thunder for free on PC, PlayStation, and Xbox.